Welcome to the podcast series Organizational Psychology Insights by CareFor EAP, where we dive into knowledge from organizational psychology to support personal development, enhance well-being, and create a healthy, happy, and highly productive workforce. I am Hương Kun, your host. And in this podcast episode, we will explore the importance of feedback and methods to create an effective feedback culture for HR professionals and leaders. This helps you build a cohesive team, strengthen psychological safety, and contribute to the development and prosperity of the organization. Our topic is feedback skills, building team strength, and optimizing performance. According to data from Harvard Business Review on employees' attitudes toward workplace feedback, most employees are very open to receiving it. Specifically, 72% believe their performance would improve with positive feedback from their supervisors. Another study by Gallup found that only 26% of high-performing employees strongly agree that the feedback they receive helps them do better work. Effective feedback plays a crucial role in creating a psychologically safe environment where employees feel comfortable expressing themselves, sharing opinions, or admitting mistakes without fear or judgment, ridicule, or punishment. While effective feedback reinforces psychological safety, unprofessional or disrespectful feedback can lead to insecurity, stress, and a sense of unsafety among employees. In business context, effective feedback and fostering psychological safety enable employees to comfortably propose new ideas, ask questions, learn from mistakes, and collaborate to find solutions. This not only enhances team effectiveness, but also builds stronger, more cohesive teams. Although employees are willing to receive feedback, not all feedback yields positive results. If feedback is given too frequently or at inappropriate times, employees may feel pressured, stressed, or even doubt their capabilities. Conversely, if feedback is too sparse or lacks clarity, employees may feel directionless and uncertain about what they need to improve to grow in their roles. Notably, ineffective negative feedback can leave employees feeling anxious and self-doubting. It can also heighten negative emotions such as sadness or anger following the feedback session. These emotional reactions can hinder their ability to perform subsequent tasks. For instance, sadness may lead them to feel that their goals are unattainable. It can also cause them to dwell on negative experiences, distracting them from their work. And finally, such emotions drain their energy, reducing motivation and making it harder to complete tasks effectively. Research from Gallup reveals that only 14% of employees agree that performance reviews help them improve in their roles. This is a disappointing result, especially considering the high costs associated with these reviews. It's estimated that for a company with approximately 10,000 employees, the time spent on performance evaluations costs between $2.4 million to $35 million annually. Several factors contribute to this outcome. First, managers may not provide feedback to employees consistently. As a result, by the time employees receive praise or criticism, the behavior in question has already become a thing of the past. Either the issue has been resolved or the situation occurred so long ago that the feedback seems unnecessary or untimely. Therefore, feedback may either reopen an unnecessary wound or come across as a belated compliment, failing to achieve its intended impact. Moreover, if managers lack effective feedback skills, performance reviews can easily turn into awkward conversations. In such cases, employees may feel like they're speaking to a completely different person than the one they usually work with, making it harder for them to accept the feedback constructively. Additionally, performance reviews often aim to achieve too many objectives within a short time frame. such as providing feedback on behaviors employees need to improve, determining salaries and bonuses, deciding on promotions, discussing the risk of potential termination. Achieving all these goals effectively in a standardized, brief, and periodic conversation is highly challenging, if not impossible, for managers. In contrast, beyond formal performance reviews, organizations should prioritize providing frequent and honest feedback in the flow of work. This approach helps affirm and emphasize employee strengths while addressing areas for improvement, ultimately motivating them to grow and excel in their roles. Research from Gallup indicates that when managers provide weekly feedback as opposed to annual feedback, team members are 5.2 times more likely to say they receive meaningful feedback, 3.2 times more likely to feel motivated to perform excellently, and 2.7 times more likely to be actively engaged in their work. Clearly, frequent feedback within teams is a key to effective performance management. This approach also helps establish feedback as part of the organizational culture, fostering a psychologically safe environment where employees feel comfortable proposing new ideas, asking questions, sharing mistakes to learn, and collaborating on solutions. You're listening to the Organizational Psychology Insights podcast by CareFor EAP. When discussing effective feedback culture, we can learn a lot from Adobe, one of the leading technology corporations based in the United States. Renowned for its development of creative and digital software, including key tools in graphic design like Adobe Photoshop. Before 2012, Adobe used a yearly performance review system that frustrated employees because it was complicated and felt overly formal. The system also hurt teamwork, since tying performance ratings to pay made some employees feel unappreciated. Adobe realized it wasn't effective to wait until the end of the year to give feedback. Instead, they saw the need for open, ongoing conversations throughout the year. In 2012, Adobe abandoned the traditional review system and introduced a more flexible feedback model called the check-in system. These are ongoing, two-way conversations between employees and managers to discuss performance, career development, and continuous feedback. These check-ins emphasize strengths within teams, identify areas for improvement, and establish next steps to promote individual career growth and organizational performance. This new system allowed Adobe to thrive in subsequent years. As Adobe grew, the check-in system evolved, with employee numbers tripling, global expansion, and increasingly complex work environments. Adobe realized the need for a digital-first check-in system to maintain its feedback culture. The enhanced system provides a consistent platform where employees can document goals, discuss performance with managers, and plan career development aspirations. Here's how the digital check-in system differs from the traditional feedback process. First is documentation. Previously, HR manually managed feedback documentation. Now, all employees and managers use an online platform to report goals, development plans, and performance growth. Goal setting. Earlier, development goals were set annually and rarely revisited. Today, employees can set personal goals on a centralized platform, updated and reviewed in real time. The feedback processes used to be complex and rarely accessible. Now anyone can provide feedback to anyone else at any time, stored on a shared platform. Career discussions were sporadic, with limited opportunities for employees to voice aspirations. Adobe now uses a career discovery tool, giving employee access to career pathways and data. Annual discussions once focused on ranking employees rather than meaningful feedback. Quarterly check-ins now encourage more frequent and constructive exchanges. Finally, salary adjustments once depend on complex ranking systems. Today, managers make decisions based on performance insights gathered during check-ins. The digital-first check-in system fosters a culture of continuous feedback. Employees and managers no longer need to wait for annual reviews. Feedback is shared quarterly, and managers can gather input from stakeholders anytime. This approach enables real-time performance improvement and cultivates an open communication culture. By adopting a continuous feedback system, leveraging digital tools, and focusing on employee development, Adobe has created an agile, engaged, and high-performing workforce. The transformation of Adobe's feedback and career development processes has been pivotal to its sustained success and innovation in a highly competitive technology landscape. From Adobe's approach, we can see that a healthy feedback culture brings numerous benefits to businesses, including increasing employee engagement. A survey by Achievers in 2020 showed that employees who receive timely and constructive feedback are more likely to stay with the company. This demonstrates that healthy feedback enhances employee engagement, helping to minimize turnover costs. For talent development, a study by Office Vibe in 2021 found that 83% of employees value constructive feedback and 96% of employees want to receive feedback regularly. Providing employees with helpful feedback is the way to support their talent and career development. In today's volatile environment, the feedback culture plays a crucial role in an organization's adaptability. Actively seeking feedback from employees, customers, and stakeholders helps the organization stay ahead of market trends and make informed decisions in managing change. Welcome back to the podcast series Organizational Psychology Insights by CareFor EAP, where we dive into knowledge from organizational psychology to support personal development, enhance well-being, and create a healthy, happy, and highly productive workforce. I am Hương Kun, your host. A common question businesses often ask is, how can they build a healthy feedback culture within their organization? Experts at CareFor EAP recommend the following strategies. Number 1 is to encourage feedback. HR should encourage employees to proactively seek feedback from colleagues and managers, as well as welcome feedback from employees to leaders and peers. This helps foster an atmosphere of honesty and psychological safety. Peer feedback involves employees giving positive feedback and suggesting areas for improvement to each other. A culture of peer feedback fosters teamwork and resource sharing, enhancing engagement. To build a healthy feedback culture, HR should also encourage a growth mindset among employees. Create a company culture that emphasizes learning, helping employees overcome fears and excel in their work. For the feedback culture to thrive, employees need to share feedback honestly and openly without attacking or harming the recipients. HR should equip employees with communication skills to prevent unnecessary conflicts that could negatively affect mental health and team engagement. To make feedback part of the company's culture, HR should focus on continuous feedback rather than just periodic reviews. This helps employees become more familiar with and comfortable with the feedback process. To reinforce the feedback culture, every individual in the organization must feel safe and comfortable expressing their thoughts. HR should emphasize empathy within the team, allowing employees to share feedback without fear or blame of punishment. HR should strike a balance between offering constructive feedback and positive feedback. If there's too much constructive feedback, employees may feel demoralized or hurt, increasing stress and the likelihood that they may leave the company. Each feedback session should begin with acknowledging positive aspects, followed by suggestions for improvement. Sometimes direct feedback can make employees feel uncomfortable. HR should consider using various methods to deliver feedback, such as online feedback platforms, small group feedback sessions, or other alternative methods. listening to the Organizational Psychology Insights podcast by CareFor EAP. In addition, is there a psychological model that can support leaders and HR professionals in conducting effective feedback conversations and helping employees grow positively in their work? One psychological tool that can assist in delivering effective feedback within organizations is the GROW model. GROW stands for Goal, Reality, Options, and Will. It is a simple yet powerful tool to feedback conversations within an organization. This model helps employees receive feedback to clearly understand the goals, the current reality, positive improvement options, and their commitment to taking action. This leads to positive improvements and ensures that the conversation remains constructive. Here's how to apply the GROW model to create healthy feedback in an organization. Number 1 is goal. The first stage of the GROW model is to clearly define the goal. This not only sets the direction for the conversation, but also helps the recipient of the feedback understand what they need to achieve or improve. In this phase, leaders or HR professionals should explore the goal. Start by discussing the overall purpose of the conversation, considering the context of the aspect being discussed and the factors affecting in the workplace. Help employees define specific, measurable goals that are relevant to their job. Assist employees in shaping a clear idea of success. Here, success can be measured by specific indicators and milestones, while also connecting the goals to the employee's core values. And be flexible with the goal. If the goal needs adjustments, leaders or HR can revisit the goal-setting phase to clarify or realign the goal. Suggested questions for this stage include: what goal do you want to achieve in your work? What do you hope to accomplish with this goal? Why is this goal important to you right now? How will you know when you've achieved a goal? When do you plan to achieve this goal? The second stage is evaluating the current reality. This helps the feedback recipient understand their present situation and the factors influencing their performance. In this phase, leaders or HR should use neutral language, avoid critical language, and instead describe behaviors or results in specific neutral terms. For example, I noticed that in recent meetings, you didn't participate much in discussions. Focus on behavior, not personality. Ensure the feedback targets specific behaviors, not personal characteristics. For example, instead of saying, "You're irresponsible," say, "I noticed that you've often completed tasks after the deadline." Use specific data. Provide clear examples to help the recipient understand the issue. For instance, in Project A, you submitted the documents 2 days late. When describing behaviors, emphasize that your goal is to help the recipient develop and improve. For example, "I want to understand the challenges you're facing so I can support you better." Suggested questions for this stage include: how do you assess the current situation? What do you think you're doing well? What difficulties are preventing you from achieving your goal? The third stage is about exploring the options that could help improve the situation. Together, the leader and the feedback recipient brainstorm feasible options to achieve the goal. In this phase, leaders or HR should encourage autonomy, ask open-ended questions to allow the feedback recipient to think for themselves and propose solutions to change their behavior or outcomes. For example, what do you think you could do to meet the deadlines? Explore alternative options. Ask questions to help the recipient discover feasible options and take responsibility for their decisions. For example, what could you do differently to prepare better for meetings instead of just skimming the documents beforehand? Encourage self-assessment. Ask questions that make the recipient reflect on their behavior and come up with a plan for improvement. For example, after reviewing how you complete tasks, what could you do to improve? Suggested questions for this stage include: what do you think you could do to get closer to your goal? Are there other options you could try? Have you encountered a similar situation before? What strategy worked then? Can you apply that to this situation? Think of someone who excels at this task. What did they do that you can try? Finally, will is the stage where the recipient commits to the specific actions. This is the critical step to ensure that the feedback recipient will take the necessary steps to make changes. In this phase, leaders or HR should set specific actions. Work with the feedback recipient to identify actionable steps to get closer to the goal. For example, next week you can prepare better for meetings by reading the materials in advance and noticing key discussion points. Ensure practicality. Set actions that are achievable and realistic for the recipient. For example, do you think you could spend 15 minutes before the meeting to define the meeting's goals? Identify measurement criteria. Help the recipient define clear criteria to assess the success of their actions. For example, in the next meeting, you could set a goal to contribute at least 2 constructive points. Suggested questions for this stage include: of the solutions we've discussed, which one do you think you'd try first? Do you need any additional support from the organization? What's the first step you're going to take? When? Benefits of applying the GROW model for feedback is that it focuses on behavior, not the person. The GROW model ensures that the feedback is always constructive, focusing on improving behavior and outcomes rather than criticizing the individual. It encourages self-awareness and development. By discussing options and committing to action, the GROW model helps employees become self-aware and take proactive steps to develop. And it creates a positive feedback environment. When applied correctly, the GROW model turns feedback into a powerful tool for employee development, fostering healthy, effective relationships within the workplace. By applying the GROW model, organizations can foster a positive feedback culture that supports both personal and professional growth. Through today's podcast episode, I believe that you have also recognized the important role of an effective feedback culture within organizations. Building a positive feedback culture not only contributes to improving mental health in a workplace and reducing burnout, but also helps create a psychologically safe and healthy work environment. When employees feel heard and have the opportunity to express their personal opinions, they will become more engaged with the organization, which in turn enhances work performance and morale. Therefore, companies need to encourage a feedback culture at all levels to promote the comprehensive development of both employees and the organization. That brings us to the end of today's podcast. I sincerely thank you for your attention and listening. I wish you all a wonderful day and look forward to meeting you in the next episode with the topic EQ skills, the key to reducing conflict in organization.